Well, joining us now to delve into what the latest data means for the Chinese and global economy is Edward Tse. Edward is founder and CEO of the Gaofeng Company in Hong Kong. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
So I want to first start with your impressions of China's GDP growth for the fourth quarter and year on year. What stood out to you?
Yeah, I think as we know, right, the last year's entire year, the growth was like 8.1%. That's pretty good, actually, you know, in the middle of the global pandemic situation. However, the last quarter, the fourth quarter, the growth was only about 4%. Obviously, this is a slowdown compared to the fast growth in the first, the second quarter as well as the third quarter of the last year. So the softening of the numbers since the fourth quarter is a bit of a concern for a lot of people. But the overall number for the entire year was pretty good.
So what do you attribute the drivers in terms of what was affecting it in the fourth quarter versus what we saw over the year?
There are a number of factors which have driven the numbers in the fourth quarter. Certainly, the pandemic continues to linger on, as you know. That has caused a lot of issues, not only within China, but also across the world, which have led to a reduction of consumption in a number of different sectors. At the same time, there were also a number of other events that have taken place around the fourth quarter. Certainly, the flooding situation in Henan, as well as the energy shortage across different parts of China. And of course, the supply chain issue, which is caused to some extent by the pandemic because of some of the closed down in the ports, some of the port cities in China, but largely because of the disruption in the ports in the receiving destination. So all these factors actually have contributed to the softening of the number in the fourth quarter. And by the way, also, of course, some of the issues with the real estate sector in China, which has been sort of brewing over most of last year, and accumulating in, of course, a slowdown in the demand side and the supply side as well for the real estate sector.
So then, as we look at monetary policy, we saw the PBOC also decided to cut some interest rates on Monday. What are central bankers looking to accomplish with that decision?
I think what they like to do is to incentivize or stimulate the economy. As as you were talking about at the beginning, the China's inflation number is on a relative basis lower than that in some of the Western countries, in particular in the US. Therefore, there's room for the central bankers to reduce the interest rate. So I think my sense is this is a good move to try to stimulate the economy. At the same time, I believe that there's also probably going to be some move on the monetary policy side as well.
Now, we know there's a lot of strategies in play to really boost growth. Highlight some of President Xi's economic priorities for this year.
As you know, back in December, there was a central economic meeting in China, in Beijing, which was chaired by President Xi. If we look at the record, or what they have announced after the meeting, the overall theme of that meeting was to try to ensure the stability, for the economic development for this year. And I believe that this is a reflection of both the domestic issues that we've been talking about, but probably more importantly, is about the uncertainty in the global issues, the global situation, in particular with respect to the uncertainty that's been instigated by some of the countries, some of the major economies in the other parts of the world, which will perhaps lead to a lot of turbulence and uncertainty during this year. So in that meeting, President Xi and the whole committee has come out with a very strong recommendation, a recognition that this year, from an economic standpoint, China needs to be able to achieve high degree of stability.
Now, there are a couple of potential hurdles there, looking at what's happening with consumer sentiment, lower birth rates, and as you mentioned, the property market. What do you see as the biggest hurdles in achieving the sort of growth that China would like to see?
I think for now, of course, the pandemic is still a big issue. When the pandemic will be over, of course, a big question to a lot of people. But I think for the Chinese leaders, they are making sure that the COVID will be well contained within China. And so, what does it really mean for China and for the rest of the world? It's going to be making sure that the pandemic will not really continue for a longer time, that the economy will return to some degree of normality, and that within China, the consumption will return to some degree of normality once the pandemic is over.